Dave Gorman with Houston Sword Sports. This is Oscar Wilno, former member of the British national team, current Houston resident. We're here to talk to you about chair fencing. First, a little bit of the history of fencing. Fencing started probably about 6,000 years ago when people first figured out how to make things out of metal. One of the first things that got made was a sword. One of the first things that happened, somebody lopped off somebody's arm, leg, head. No, it was gruesome. They realized swords are dangerous. They should practice first. This is fencing. It's been with us as long as there's people. It will probably be with us as long as there's people. What we think of as fencing started in Europe in a period of history called the Renaissance. Basically, gunpowder comes to Europe, and all of a sudden these big, heavy, hot, cumbersome, expensive suits of armor that the knights needed to protect themselves on the battlefield were not nearly so protected, so they stopped wearing them. When they stopped wearing them, the swords became smaller because it didn't have to break through the heavy, cumbersome, expensive armor. So by the 1750s, they weren't too much bigger than what I'm holding in my hand right now. Two people would have it. If somebody insulted someone, you say, "Sir, you're insulting me." You draw your weapon, they draw theirs, you fight a duel. Terrible way to settle an argument. However, it's how it would work back then. And because of that, you had to be able to train. What this meant is you had to be able to do it, so you train. What this meant is you would take your sword, épée in French, you put a big wad of leather on the end, you set it in flour, floret in French, it's foil in English. Foil is any sword that if I do that, it doesn't go through my hand. Technically, all our swords are foils because we like our gun on the inside. That said, this is specifically a foil. With a foil, you have to know three things. You're practicing for the duel. One, only the tip of the sword is sharp. Two, you have to hit the torso, chest, stomach, sides, back. Anything that your jacket conventionally will cover that's not a sleeve. Three, two people at the end of the duel. One of them walks home, one of them doesn't. You want to be the guy that walks home. What this means is if somebody tries to hit you, you're going to do something to make them miss. In the case of chair fencing, the first option would be to lean away from the action so that you can't be reached. Second option would be to parry, knock your weapon off to the side. And the third option would be kind of go, and hope they don't hit you. Probably not your best choice. That said, this is the foil. Second weapon, the épée. Épée, French word means sword. This is the weapon that was used for a duel. When you actually fought a duel, you didn't have to go to the death. You could go to first blood. What this means is you can hit anywhere on your opponent's body. In chair fencing, because we don't want to have to deal with whether or not they hit the chair, you'll wear an apron, which we'll show you later, and then you're going to hit anywhere above the waist. So body, torso, head, arms. With épée, if you hit before your opponent, you score a point. If you hit at the same time as your opponent, you both score a point. And if you hit anything that's not your opponent, you're not going to score. Third weapon is the saber. With the saber, it's different than the foil of the épée. I can also score with the edge of the blade. I can score anywhere above the waist, arms, leg, head, just like, arm, body, head, just like épée. But it's like foil in that if somebody starts first, you have to make them miss. So, with the saber, you're going to try and hit, and you can hit with a slashing action. This makes it much faster, more aggressive, harder to defend. Saber tends to be the fastest, and then foil and épée maybe a little less so. Chair fencing, because the distance is fixed, I think always tends to be a little more aggressive. Two last things to talk about: adaptive sports and fencing. There is a rumor, I don't know how true this is, that fencing is the first weapon to have adaptive equipment, and the first piece of adaptive equipment we have is this grip. This is called an orthopedic grip, and basically it was developed in the 1850s. Wars ravaged Europe, as always, and following these wars, people would actually be able to survive the battlefield, but they might be injured in some way, so that what would happen is they couldn't hold the traditional straight grips. So they created these orthopedic grips that help people hold them. It gives them more strength and power. Today, almost everybody uses the orthopedic grips, but in foil and thing. There you go. The second thing is chair fencing is actually celebrating its 65th anniversary this year. So there you have it. That's a brief introduction to fencing, and now we're going to turn it over to Oscar, who's going to talk about some of the things that are specific to chair fencing.
So the fencing chair is set up so that you have a handle at the back so you can hold on to, so you can keep stability as you're moving back and forward. You have no guard at the front, so you have as much lean as possible going forward. You have a nice high cushion to get you as much height and distance as possible, because the taller you are, then the further you can get. And this seat is set up for what we call category A's, which I'll explain in a second. And for category B's and C's, then you'll have more of a bucket seat, so you have more stability. So as I mentioned, there's three categories in wheelchair fencing. Category A is if you're sitting in the chair, then you are effectively the same as an able-bodied person in the chair. Most category A's have a lower limb disability, such as an amputation, or some have hemiparesis, or in my case, a joint fusion. So most category A's can walk outside of the chair and don't use the chair day to day. This is compared to the category B's, who are, I think, exclusively in wheelchairs day to day, and usually have some impairment of the core or trunk muscles that mean that recovering from going down to a position like this takes longer than that of a category A. Then we have category C, who have an impairment of the fencing arm, so that it's harder to hold the weapon, it's harder to use the weapon. So basically the category system helps keep everything more equal and people competing against people with similar levels of disability.
So there's a question on that last bit. You were saying with issues to the weapon arm, it's going to make it category C. There's currently an Italian women's foilist who is a quadruple amputee, and she has a device that actually fixes the weapon to her lower arm, I guess.
Yes.
She would be...
She is category B and is spectacular, and is at the Paralympics in Rio took out several category A's in the team event, which was amazing. Yeah, I think she went 2 years being completely undefeated. So Beatrice Vio, definitely look up.
She also, she has Martial, I believe.
Yes.
For those who like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. You spoke about the chair, the framework that we're in. How exactly does this get set up? How is this used?
So the framework is to maintain a set distance between the fencers. So the distance you're set between you is...
Actually, give me one moment. I'm going to reverse my chair so I'm oriented as a right-handed fencer.
Yep.
Which I am.
And I'm guessing if we...
Imagine I'm also in a chair and also strapped into the frame.
I think if I grab an épée, because that's how... Or if we both have the same weapon, at least.
Take that.
So we set the distance of how far apart the fences are based on the arm of the shorter fencer. So it's based on, for foil, will be when the blade of the shorter fencer reaches the inside of the elbow for foil, or for épée and saber, the outside of the elbow.
So saber and épée and foil.
Yes.
Am I allowed to, is there any advantage to leaning one way or another?
Yes, but it's frowned upon.
Okay.
That's the reason for the stripes on the back, to stop people trying to lean.
So there's actually a stripe, there's a stripe on the back of the chair and the back of the fencer to line up.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, we are going to suit up and we will show you a little bit of fencing because we only, I probably shouldn't hit the microphone. Because we only have one chair, I will be standing, Oscar will be sitting, and we will show you some gear getting put on, and then we will go forward and show you some fencing.
All right, our fencers are getting ready to go. They are suited up. Oscar's getting strapped into the chair. Coach Dan is wearing a lot of protective equipment here. He has some very thick pants. He has this thing right here that he's holding is called the underarm protector. That has seams in a different place than the seams in his jacket. Then he's got the jacket on, that's the white part. He's going to go ahead and zip that up. And then over the top is something called a lame, and that is a conductive metal vest. And what it allows them to do is if they hit on the lame, it'll register that they're hitting on target. If they hit anything else, it'll register that they're hitting off target. We'll see that in a sec once they are hooked up. Coach Dan's wearing a glove on his right hand only because he's fencing with the right hand. Traditionally, you would have used your left glove to issue the challenge for the duel. If you take the glove off, you throw it on the ground and say, I challenge you to a duel. And so to honor that, we only wear the glove on our weapon hand. The mask that he's wearing is a steel mesh that protects the face and a little bit of the neck. That gray patch at the bottom is conductive, just like the vest is. Once he's all suited up, Coach Dan is very well protected from punctures and pokes. And this makes fencing one of the safest sports in the Summer Olympics. So we have the foil here. You see the blunt tip, and it's, if you can hit that for me. When we touch the tip, you get the light. There's tape on the end for reasons. All right, this is the guard. We have the grip. The weapon is plugged into a body cord that is inside Coach Dan's jacket. It comes out, it's attached with a little clip to his lame, and this right here is one of our wireless receivers. We traditionally fence with these overhead wires, but it is really convenient to have the wireless, especially for chair fencing, because we're not getting cords tangled up. All right, so you can see there is a line in the center of Oscar's chair and in the center of his lame. And so those have to be lined up. That's how you can make sure that people are not leaning and cheating. He's also got some British flag rims on his chair to help show that he is a member of the team. So they are testing to make sure that they can hit each other. All right, we got green light for Oscar and a red light for Coach Dan. They salute each other. They salute the referee and the audience. That's you guys. So Coach Dan is standing. Since we only have one competition chair, it's easier for Oscar to train against a standing fencer than someone who's not used to doing this sitting in a folding chair. So we're going to explain some actions. For the first one, Oscar's going to attack. On guard. All right, now Oscar's going to attack and Coach Dan is going to parry and riposte. Parry means block, riposte means hit after the parry. All right, now Oscar is going to initiate the attack. Coach Dan's going to try to parry and Oscar's going to disengage and not let him parry. Fence. That white light means that Oscar hit off target. We're going to try that again. Fence. There we go.
I attack, you lead back, and then
Coach Dan attacks, and Oscar's going to avoid with distance. Fence. And he's able to take the parry because he has a little bit more room. On guard. Ready? Fence. Halt. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Halt. So you notice how much Oscar's chair moves as he's fencing. This is the reason that they're on that platform. Ready? Fence.
That's one I was talking about earlier.
Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Halt. So you see Oscar's got this shiny blanket. It's actually an apron, and it's grounded so that when Coach Dan hits him on the leg, nothing happens. They're ready for épée now. Coach Dan does not have any Coach Dan does not have any lame because the whole body is target in standing épée, and we don't have any extra aprons. So, on guard. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence.
Cheating, that is.
Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. They both hit at the same time, and épée, they both get a point. Ready? Fence.
Take it.
Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. Ready? Fence. All right, last one. Ready? Oh. Ready? Fence. And at the end, they salute and tap guards. Here we are with Saber. They're going to test. When they hit with the side of their blades on the masks or the lames, they will get a red or a green light. Ready, fence. So you notice with Saber, they come at each other a lot faster. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Halt. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence.
Oh, nice. Filthy. Nice.
Ready, fence. Ready, fence. Ready, fence.
Thank you.
I'm Dan Gorman
And I'm Oscar.
from Houston Sword Sports. Thanks for watching us today. If you have any questions, let us know. We hope to see you on the strip.